large crowd and you suddenly lose your child. Many of us have been there, including myself, and it is absolutely the worst feeling.
And that is exactly what happened to our colleague Anthony Robart when he took his son to a recent Toronto Maple Leafs game. He is here along with parenting expert Allison Schaefer to share with us all what he did and what you could do if you find yourself in a similar situation. Good morning and welcome to you both.
Hey, thank you.
Anthony, take us back to that night first off, if you can. When did you realize that your son had gone missing?
Yeah, well, it was at the end of the night, and keep in mind, this was his first NHL game, a big moment, a moment that we look forward to for a long time, and he's a massive Leafs fan, and everywhere we went throughout the arena, I made sure he held my hand, which most 9-year-old boys don't want to do, as you know. It was at the end of the night, and we went to the washroom, and I asked him if he needed to go. He insisted, no, Dad. I'm like, okay. So I had to go, standing there, pardon the detail, I'm standing at the urinal. He's 6 feet behind me. So within plain sight, filled with guys, keep in mind. And all of a sudden, I turn around to leave, and he's gone. And I'm thinking maybe he changed his mind. Maybe he had to go to the stall, whatever. I'm looking around, nothing. Calling his name, nothing. I leave the washroom, and, you know, it's a sea of people by this point. Everyone swarming the exits, everyone wearing a blue jersey.
Sure.
Running back and forth, and calling, now yelling his name. And that feeling, right? It's terrifying. And this went on for way, way too long. And I run out, finally grab an official, and I said, look, into those words, right? When you hear yourself saying it, my son is gone. And no one, you should never have to say those words. Running back and forth, nothing. And all of a sudden, now other people are helping. And I look down at my phone. Number on the screen. I pick it up, and there's a woman on the other line. And she says, I have your son. And it's still emotional for me because that moment where you finally feel, okay, this is going to be a good ending.
How did she know your number? How did she know to phone you?
Well, this is just it. So I find her outside. No, they're outside the arena at an exit not too far away. My son is in tears. I'm in tears by this point. I thank the two women who found them. And what was amazing is they were able to ask him my phone number. And he had memorized it. And this is something we practice all the time. And I asked him, how did he leave? Like, why did he leave? He said, I saw someone who looked like you. Same shoes, same jacket. And I followed him out. And by the time I realized it wasn't you, it was too late. He was now outside, didn't know where to go to that many people. And I can't thank the two women, Peggy and Cody, enough because and he was able to recite it twice.
That is amazing
incredible.
that he knows your phone number because I don't think any of us really know each other's phone numbers. I mean, you and I call each other text every day. I couldn't tell you what your phone number is.
I know. Yeah. Allison, a number of things Anthony and his wife Christine did right here. Let's begin with your first point, and that is start talking to them, start this conversation early on.
Yeah. Even a toddler, you can say, it's your job to keep an eye on me, and it's my job to keep an eye on you, but we must be within visual recognition of each other. And you said, he was just outside. You were right there. He was waiting. He was 6 feet away. Right. The learning of the phone number, to your point, we so often hit redial or hit the icon, but to actually be able to recite it is something we often forget. So he knew his number, which is great. And if you've got kids that are too young, we can write it on a piece of paper, stuff that in their pocket, so he can say, hey, if you ever need to reach me, you got the number right there, even before they're able to recite it.
And some parents are now telling me they're going to write their phone number on their child's arm, just in case, because some kids won't be able to memorize. They may not remember that their piece of paper is in the pocket, so it's on there, just in plain sight. And you just hope for a positive ending, you know. And I asked my son after. Talking about this, you know, what he was going through, like because I wanted him to talk about this, and he said something that just shattered my heart. He said, I was thinking of my future without my family. And when you hear those words as a parent, you just, how do you put it into words? And you realize, because all the things that we'd done, we practiced over and over again. Both numbers, right? It's one of those things that's so important. And
I want to get through these other tips, because they're so important. Allison, another thing that Anthony and Kieran did right, notify a helper.
Right, and so teach your kid who's a helper. Like Mr. Rogers, a stranger is just a friend you haven't met yet. To be able to give that sense of safety to kids, people will help you, I'm sure, when they saw you crying. But you can also identify anybody working, somebody who's behind a cashier, anyone in a uniform, because those people have access to intercoms and different ways that they can get you reunited. So identify who's the helper. If you were lost right now, who would you go to? That's right, that person works at the Starbucks. You can go to her.
And I know you've told your kids, look for people with other, if you can't find a police officer or someone who works at an establishment, find someone with kids.
Find someone with kids. Don't you find that that's one of the
Yep.
most important things? Because they'll definitely understand, because you never know. What's interesting as well is that my son had been crying for quite some time, basically pleading, and no one stopped. And until these two women stopped. And you wonder, do a lot of people, are they focused on other things? Or are they hear a kid crying, they don't know, right? The kid's whining. So maybe it's a reminder for all of us.
Yeah, and Allison, just finally here, I love this tip that you say, establish a meeting point with your son or daughter just in case.
Just in case.
Right?
Something that you can identify before you go in so that you can actually visually see it. See this pole right here that says P3 or whatever it is? Do you see this vending machine at the entrance? If we get separated, this is going to be our meet-up spot.
And my grandmother and I always used to do that when we rode the subway together. We always established that. We had a system on where to meet if we ever got lost in the subway system. All great points. Anthony, thank you for sharing.
Glad it turned out well. Well done, Dad.
Goodness. And Allison, thank you for stopping by.
Thanks.